He's been strutting around to impress some wench. The one that lewd Chamberlain brought here, I think.
Ah, I see. I know exactly who we're looking for.
You do?
No, actually.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was my GOTY of 2025. And I already explained somewhat briefly why in the video of my top 10 games of 2025. But now, well over a year later, I have actually finished KCD II with over 100 hours on the clock, and that is why I'm going to tell you once again why this was my GOTY, and more. But not briefly, but in much greater detail. Sounds good? Great, let's get started.
And for that you surely deserve a reward.
The story of KCD II continues where the first installment left off. You still play as Henry of Skalitz, a blacksmith's son who, thanks to his adventures in the first game, is now a squire to nobleman Sir Hans Capon. And just to be clear right away before I go on, it absolutely helps if you have played the first installment. You often see with sequels that watching a recap, whether or not it is included in the game, is sufficient, as was the case for, with example, God of War Ragnarok. Or that the story stands so much on its own that it actually doesn't matter if you played the predecessor, thinking of games like GTA. Which sometimes do have references to earlier games, but you don't miss anything if you haven't played the earlier games. This is absolutely not the case with KCD II. The game is a direct sequel in every aspect and is so full of storylines, characters and references from the previous game that I can truly recommend playing the predecessor as well. That being said, you start the game while out being with Sir Hans Capon's party on a mission to deliver an important letter to Otto von Burgo, which could be decisive in the war between Kings Wenceslaus and Sigismund.
Sir Hans Capon of Perkstein. I bear a letter for Sir Otto von Burgo from my master, Sir Hanush of Leipa.
A war that resulted in Henry's village of Skalitz being razed to the ground and your parents being murdered. The revenge story of the first part is therefore continued in the second installment. Everything seems to be going smoothly, but just before the finish line you are attacked by bandits while holding camp, losing everything in the process. While you and Hans barely manage to escape and survive. Then begins a grand adventure in which, first of all, as a nobody, you must work your way up to a wedding where von Burgo is supposed to be. The only problem is that only people of status are allowed to attend, and no one believes that you and Hans have any status, given the fact that you lost everything and look like vagabonds.
What's all this about? Why don't you send those beggars packing?
I did, sir. They say they're messengers.
I am Sir Hans Capon of Perkstein. Envoy...
I heard. Nevertheless, I doubt Sir Hanush would send two vagabonds covered in excrement as emissaries. Apart from which, Sir Hans Capon is dead. We found his body by the pond. His company was ambushed by outlaws and they were slaughtered to the last man.
So you have to find a different way to get there somehow, and it immediately becomes apparent how big this fucking game is. By the time I reached that wedding, I spent 30 to 40 hours on it, and with all the main quests and side quests in the meantime.
Wow, I am so... 40 hours.
And for those who say that it can be done faster without all those side quests, they are technically right, but during those side quests you learn skills, find items and get money that you definitely need. And I have to be honest, if someone ever told me that it takes at least 30 hours to reach a first real milestone in a story, I would think, what the hell, and maybe not even start at all.
I do.
But every hour here is worth it. The story is full of amazing moments and I don't want to spoil too much, but I am going to mention a few certain things right now just to show how good the story of KCD II really is and how amazingly it is told. The story ultimately tells a plot in which Henry and Hans get caught up in the war between the kings and also help to settle the war in the favor of Wenceslaus. The game takes place in two areas, and in the second area you come in contact with a group of outlaws called the Devils. And from that moment on, the tone of the story changes as well, to a more serious, harder tone, in which whatever is necessary must be done. But the game certainly has humor in the many storylines it contains.
Leave your lies!
Old am I? He came to me himself because he wanted a mature woman to breed with. And he never even pulled it out. And he filled me up like a wineskin! Suit yourself.
Giddy gay, giddy gay, giddy.
But the game also alternates those kinds of moments with epic ones, where the tension is peaking and the game manages to bring this to your screen in a sublime way.
Everyone, away from the tower!
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
What the fuck is that?
Ready!
Pater Noster, Quies in Caelus.
Time!
Et debiti nobis debitar nostris sicut.
Take cover!
Et nos dimitimus debitoribus nostris.
Everyone away from the wall.
Et ni nos inducas in tentationem. But deliver us from evil.
However, if I had to list all the epic moments here from all the quests and side quests I encountered, it would take me hours, but I think my point has been made. It is an epic story full of amazing moments and side quests with storylines so good that they could easily have been main quests. Bloody Baron, eat your heart out. But besides moments, the game is also full of amazing characters, each of whom is different from the others but therefore plays such an important role in the story in their own way and in portraying that story brilliantly.
Well, that's nice to hear.
And in terms of gameplay, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 goes a few steps further than its illustrious predecessor. But this is also a hardcore RPG full of medieval simulation elements. Because of this, the gameplay, especially in the beginning, is slow, difficult and certainly not for everyone. You can easily spend hours sharpening your sword, brewing potions requiring you to find all the ingredients in the world and talking to people in search of information to help you with your quests. It is an RPG with skill trees and perks, but it works exactly in proportion of what you do a lot. Do you want perk points and improve your sword fighting skills? Then you have to sword fight a lot. Horse riding? The same applies. Do you want to completely master alchemy? You probably guessed it.
Kid, you guessed it!
And all those facets work incredibly well, despite everything looking very slow. You are constantly engaged in activities in a natural way. And things in the world also unfold very naturally, which contributes to the awesome gameplay. Every time I started the game, I was basically just asking myself, what am I going to encounter next? What kind of adventure will I get caught up in? Because even when you aren't actively engaged in a quest, all sorts of things can just cross your path. Think of ambushes, drunks wanting to drink with you,
I don't drink with strangers.
people wanting to trade, gambling, you name it. Or you just might end up on the criminal path. And this game is full of amazing mechanics in that regard. If you steal an item and want to sell it, traders near where you stole it will recognize that item and might notice it, wanting to buy it for a reduced price or, worse, they call the guards.
Fucking serious.
And then you can do 4 things. Talk your way out of it, provided your speech skills are high enough, accept your punishment, pay a fine, or fight/flee. Accepting your punishment means standing in the stocks for a few hours, but if you do this too often, the punishments will escalate, from branding to even execution, which means instant game over. The deduction I mentioned regarding selling stolen items goes beyond that as well. Take armor for example. If you steal armor and wear it in the area where you stole it, it will stand out if you're unlucky. Stolen status of items decreases automatically after a few in-game days, so it's worth waiting for the cooldown before showing off your newly stolen shit. But it goes further. An example, for a quest I had to steal something but a guard was in the way. After multiple attempts to sneak around him, all of which failed, I decided to go with a tougher approach, a crossbow shot between the eyes. However, other people had already spotted me sneaking around, and subsequently a body was found, so I was considered the killer even having already left the town hours ago. And talking my way out of it didn't work. The result? A hefty bounty on my head. People don't need to see you do anything, but they will still reason that you are the perpetrator. Incidentally, this also works with other crimes such as major thefts. Furthermore, the game is truly unforgiving and brutal in its realism. Henry has to eat and sleep to avoid certain debuffs, and if you are overloaded you cannot ride a horse or fast travel. If you don't treat a wound, you will bleed to death. And if you drink too much, you will end up with a massive hangover if you aren't trained enough. I could go on for hours with many examples of why this is so much more than just a typical RPG, but I think the message is clear.
You better hope it is.
There are too many gameplay elements to mention. Sneaking, pickpocketing, lockpicking, different types of weapons, lots of potions, crafting your own weapons and armor, trading, dialogue options, you name it. And all the facets have really improved in this second installment, particularly lockpicking and sword fighting. Not that it is very easy, certainly when you are still a lower level, the game remains truly difficult at times. Take archery alone, don't think for a moment that you have a crosshair in KCD II, but slowly I developed into some sort of a machine with amazing armor, weapons and skills that could handle virtually any situation and talk or fight my way out of almost anything. And that progression felt really great. And then the presentation, oh man, it is delightful. The game looks truly stunning. The game was made in the Cry engine, and that is an engine with limitations, but the developers have made optimal use of all the engine's strengths and managed to very cleverly circumvent the weaker elements, and you can see it in the result, both in the cutscenes and during the gameplay. The enormous open world generally consists of forest and grasslands, yet the world is stunning, feels varied and is a joy to walk through. Especially when the sun shines through the trees or when you walk through the cities and villages. Everything looks awesome.
Wow, that looks awesome!
The audio design is also done incredibly well, and whatever you are doing, from blacksmithing to searching for plants in the forest or trading things at the market in Gothenburg, everything is accompanied by the right audio and background sounds, and the music is great too. The limitations actually lie mainly in the game's stability and in the facial animations and character models. In terms of stability, I mainly mean the odd bugs and glitches you will encounter, and to be honest, that is to be expected in games like this. But because KCD II also places a high emphasis on realism and simulation, it takes you out of the experience a bit more than in other open world RPGs where this can absolutely happen as well. And regarding facial animations and character models, I am mainly referring to everything outside the rendered cutscenes, where they look a bit dated. But to be honest, it still surpasses Starfield on all fronts, even with DLSS 5.
What the hell?
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a milestone in gaming, a new benchmark and a phenomenal RPG. All facets are executed brilliantly and you can easily spend hundreds of hours on the main game alone. Meanwhile, 3 substantial chunky story-driven DLCs have also been released, in which you even get a whole new environment in the form of a monastery. And the storylines there are brilliant too. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 might be too slow for some or too simulation driven in a way that's not for everyone, but I can only recommend trying to get through that, because what awaits you is a game, an adventure, an experience that is unmatched. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was my GOTY of last year and gets a 9.8 from me. You won't get better RPGs, and I say that with about 10 hours of Crimson Desert on the clock. And with that, we come to the end of this review. What did you think of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. That helps my channel immensely. And for live gameplay, you can check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/gameplayofj, and don't forget to follow me there as well. For more content, check out the suggestions on the left or the channel on the right. For now, thanks for watching, see you in the next video. Bye.